Relax, the keyboard is off and the press box is closed, but the mic is just getting warmed up. Welcome to the Hockey Writers Ink, the show where the writer is fresh off the presses and the ink is not dry. Join your host, Lance Green, the guardian of the blue paint turned writer, and co-host SteelFlyers, as we bring you all the latest on the Philadelphia Flyers.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the next episode of the Hockey Writers Ink with your host, Lance Green.
All right, Steel, how are you? I'm ready to talk some Flyers hockey.
Oh my. Yeah, man. I'm doing great. How is the host with the most, the editor-in-chief, the writer extraordinaire, the guardian of the blue paint turned writer? How is the great Lance Green? How are you, sir?
Yeah, I am good. Draft coverage is, started. The combine is here, so we're seeing some of these prospects all in the same room together, competing in, different strength and agility drills, and it's
yeah, man,
interesting to say the least. Yeah,
for sure. And we finally got Game 1 of the Stanley Cup Finals last night, and boy, that did not disappoint at all. So
go figure. Bob looked amazing in that. I said this way back when we signed him. He is the most technically sound goalie I have seen in the past probably 15 to 20 years.
Really? Like, do you think he's more technically sound than Brodeur? Because I thought Brodeur did a lot of the little things well. Do you know what I mean?
Well, Brodeur, it was a different kind of time too.
Yeah, I'm with you.
With a lot more stand-up style and stuff. Styles have changed a lot more. So, yeah, I mean, Brodeur was definitely a guy that, you could teach a class off of. And there's some other ones back then too. But, yeah, I mean, Bobrovsky he's just in position. He's on it. He's always ready. And it shows. It really shows. His technical aspects are refined.
For sure. And I think he's going to collect a lot of hardware this year. I think he's going to collect a Vezina. I also think he potentially might collect a Conn Smythe. If he plays another game like he did in Game 1 and completely, utterly takes over and steals that game, I don't care no matter what happens the rest of the series.
Yeah.
Because he has just been pretty lights out this whole entire playoffs. You know what I mean? So
for sure.
All right. Well, enough, about past and previous and ex-Flyers. What do you say we start talking about, the team that's kind of lacing it up now? Yeah.
Sure.
All right, good. So, the great Lance Green, writer extraordinaire, editor-in-chief of SteelFlyers.com, has recently released a new article, which we are going to dive into and break that down in this episode as well. There's a few other things that we would like to broach the subject on. So, yeah, we're going to have a good one here for you folks. If you're not ready, and, well, man, I'll tell you what, you better be, because here we come. Episode number 170. And Philadelphia Flyers doing their due diligence with the draft just a few weeks away. And this coincides very perfectly with your article, Lance. So thank you for the article, which you can go over to SteelFlyers.com and check it out. So, all right, Lance, here we go, man. I got a couple of things that I want to talk about. Sure. I know I want to cover the article because I think that article is not just covering a lot of ideas and concepts of what the team is doing this offseason, but it also is laying the foundation for what they're trying to do for the future.
Sure.
Right? You know what I'm saying? Okay. And so the first thing I want to say is watching the press conference with Keith Jones and Hilferty the other day. Although it didn't seem like there was a lot of information, in that. I believe there was a lot of information in that.
Yeah, I don't think this administration's going to give away a ton of what they're doing, right? They're always got something up their sleeve. They don't want to let the cat's out of the bag before it happens, so as to not mess it up, what their plans are. So they hinted at a lot of things, a lot of possibilities, but they wouldn't confirm anything.
Exactly.
With a lot of different aspects involving the team. So, it's an interesting time. They've made a lot of progress in the hand they were dealt from Chuck Fletcher, and there's still a lot of things to do to get this team to where they want it to be.
Yeah.
So, we'll talk about some things in this article as to why they can't really do the things that most people want them to do, if that makes sense. Most fans want them to do right now.
No, that makes perfect sense, because the fan base is like, yeah, these are the right moves you need to make, but see, hold the phone there, Mr. Stargell. We got Houston, we've got some problems here.
For sure. There's a lot of guys out there that are writing some articles on hopes and dreams, and not with a lot of what's really happening and mindset on why they can't just go out and sign a $10 million contract for Konecny or something like that. Hey, he wants it. He's the heart of the franchise. Yes, he's the heart of the team. But they don't have the cap space. Let's be real here. They got to make some moves before they could do that.
And that's one of the things that we're going to get into in the show here a little bit too, is some of this major amount of dead cap space money and issues with trying to pay a Konecny that kind of money, or anybody else for that matter. You know what I mean? Any kind of serial contract with the list of free agents that are going to be available. But I want to get back to the press conference a little bit. And I agree with you, Lance. I really, but see, I also believe that I was kind of reading between the lines a little bit like you were. And there was a lot of things that was said. We're not giving up. We're still trying to put a good product on the ice now. But in reality, what we're really trying to do is build a contender for not just tomorrow, but the next day, the next day, the next day, and the next day, and be back to where, when I first started following the Flyers, they were in the playoffs, I would say, 22 of the last 26 years when I first started watching the Flyers, and they continued that well into, until we get into the 2000s. And once you get into the 2000s, it starts dropping off significantly. You know what I mean? With the times that the Flyers make the playoffs, right? So when you have a team that's 20 some years in a row, you're in the playoffs, and now suddenly you're scraping by trying to this is why I really like with what Jones and Hilferty said. They are trying to build this team the right way through the draft and do things the right way, dot their I's and cross their T's. They did the right thing with bringing in Ivan Fedotov. They had to let Alexei go back to Russia. Okay, cool. They're making sure that they're going through the league to find out what they can and can't do. So we're going to find out here in a little bit what's going to happen with Michkov, and exactly with what you said. This is a team now where you have to be – it's a savvy team now. It's a savvy administration now where you know that Danny Briere is not afraid to drop the hammer on any deal that's going to make this team good. But you also kind of got that feeling that he's got a little something up his sleeve too. Right. You know what I mean?
And that's what the article is based on.
Exactly.
Some guys out there wanted to make fun of the due diligence thing. Oh, they're doing their job. Yes, They're finally doing their job, right? Chuck Fletcher did not do his job.
No.
Correctly. He did not do it. He sat
No.
on his hands. He waited for things to come to him. Keith Jones and Danny Briere are doing all the things that they're supposed to be doing, and beyond. You know,
I agree.
they're looking under every rock. They're crossing their T's and dotting their I's and making sure they do everything the way they're supposed to do it so that it doesn't blow up in their face like it did in the past era. Like, I don't know how hard that is to comprehend here, guys who wanted to, you know, kind of downplay the hinting of that in the article, because for, like Steele said, the past 10 to 15 years before Danny Briere got in there, they weren't doing those things that made them, you know, that constant playoff contender that they once were for 20 some years with like Detroit and other teams that made it every single year. You know, that was the Flyers. They did the same thing, and we haven't. So we need to tear it all down and start up and rebuild it again. So now I feel confident that the team is doing what they're supposed to be doing.
Yeah, I do too.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they're gonna look all over to make sure that they're not gonna mess up anything. They're not gonna, you know, leave somebody behind or whatever. They're pulling all these prospects in. They're signing the ones they're supposed to be signing. They're trying to get rid of the players that they need to get rid of.
Exactly.
It's taking some time because of the hand they were dealt and the mess of broken pieces that was given to them, but they're doing their job. They're doing it correctly for a change. So
right. No.
that is this whole basis of this.
And that's Lance, I got to tell you, man, that's exactly the reason why you are the editor-in-chief of SteelFlyers.com, because you always lay it out there.
Right.
Okay. Look, it may not be popular. It may not be what everybody wants. Okay. Right. But unfortunately, this is the reality of things here. It's like what I want to get into, the next thing that I want to get into, which is this huge bundle of dead cap space money that the Flyers. Now, that's something that they danced around at that press conference. Okay, but look, the reality, the hard, cold facts of it is there's a lot of money that's going to be having to be paid out that's going to count against the cap. Right. And not only that, but there's also the extra, $3.6 million that's part of the NHL's hit because of the extended bonuses and cap that the Flyers, their bad money, their slap on the hand. Last year it was 1.8 million. This year it's 3.6 million. You know what I mean? So that also counts against the cap. We're already at 6.5 million with the Kevin Hayes money. Then you tack that on, and
let's break it all down, because I mean it is what it is. The Flyers have one of the highest dead caps of any team in the NHL right now, and you look at it from the start. You have Ryan Ellis that's got to go on long-term IR again this year. Because he's not retiring. He's going to continue to collect that 6.8 million, 6.9 million, whatever it is, check of his that we can't even put to a long-term IR until after free agency is done. You have Kevin Hayes, like you spoke about, at $3.5 million for him that we're paying him to not play for us. You have the 1.6 that's allocated to D'Angelo's buyout, so he would no longer play for us.
Yeah, right.
You have to pay now. They retained Ryan Johansson in that deal this past trade deadline, and he's at like $4 million that you're going to have to hide, and most likely you're going to have to eat another $3.85 million of buried cap penalties in Cal Peterson's deal if he goes back to Lehigh to play, to hide him until his contract's over at the end of the season. So tons of dead cap space, And after I wrote this article, this interview came out where they kind of hinted at a possible buyout of a guy like Cal Peterson and or Cam Atkinson. That kind of came out as well. So, his play was not up to par where it had been in years. And, he's $5+ million. But in doing so, they're going to create more dead cap space. If they buy these people out, it might give them a million or so to play with this season, but it's going to make you have to pay them for another year after their salary, at least a couple million, and a couple million just not to play with us. So they're going to continue on in that dead cap, trend. But, I don't know what they can do about it because it's the hand that they were dealt with all these bad contracts and stuff. And now, they're kind of adding into that, with making the Ryan Johansson trade and stuff like that, but they're getting first round picks and stuff for him. So, for that kind of stuff and in different trades. So it's building for the future. But all that being said is why we cannot offer Travis Konecny $10 million a season or $9 million a season like he wants. Okay. The Flyers don't have the cap space. End of story. They don't have it. So all of you fans out there and all of these other writers, let's be in reality here. You
want some reality? All right, here, let me throw some reality at you, okay? So not only would we continue to build on the dead cap space money by buying out, Cal Peterson and Cam Atkinson, which I think is the wrong thing to do, but after this season, you got, Cam Atkinson comes off the books, so that might potentially be a good thing, but you now have to worry about, what are you going to do with Noah Cates? What are you going to do with Garnet Hathaway? What are you going to do with, you know what I mean? You got to pay Tyson Forster because he's going to be an RFA as well. So you've got a list of Cam York is also on that list of players that are going to be without contracts for next season. So you've got to take care of some business now because you're not going to have this pool of money to pay some of these guys that I know you want to keep on the team, like a Cam York or a Tyson Forster. Those are the kind of guys you want to keep on the team. You can get rid of all the rest of them. We didn't even mention Ristolinen. He had a major surgery. We'd have no idea. They're saying he should be ready by training camp, but that's another thing I want to get into as well too. There's two other things, but with all of that that's out there that's going to need to be paid for the Flyers, and with Konecny wanting this $10 million, even if he wants 9 or 8, where are the Flyers going to get any of this money? Do you know what I mean? You're still on the hook. Now, Brizgalov is finally gone off the books, okay? But you're going to be on the hook for
quite a substantial amount of money.
Kevin Hayes until next season. Another $3.5 million goes on the cap for next season as well, too. Right? That's for Kevin Hayes. Okay, and whatever else you didn't do or take care of for this year is going to count for next year. Blah 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 blah. I mean,
so as bad as those players are, having Atkinson back for another season, I don't know if I want to pay him to not play for us this season and next season. And in that terms, when we will finally get a little cap space in some of those coming off, I don't know if I want to add back more to it. And because if you cancel somebody even with a 1-year deal, you got to pay them for 2 years, a reduced rate, but still.
I mean, you're also looking at Zamula and Johnson and Stahl Now we know Stahl's going to go
Stahl's
and
gone,
Johnson might go, but Zamula's going to need a contract this year because he's an RFA this year.
They're supposedly
Right.
talking to him right now to see what they can do about him to come back.
Right.
So, yeah.
Okay. So we'll see. And there's a lot of stuff that needs to be done. And with all this dead cap space money, how are you going to be able to even remotely go to Konecny and offer him any kind of a serious contract? I don't even think you can offer him what he's getting paid now to come back and play. I don't think you can even offer him that kind of money now. With the amount of dead cap space money and everything else like that, and all the other guys you have to pay, does Konecny deserve a raise? Absolutely. Put in 33 goals this year, and had the most he's ever had, and played lights out, was an all-star, the whole 9 yards. Okay, I get it, but he is due a raise. But the Flyers cannot even afford the contract that he's getting paid right now to re-sign him after next year.
Yep. So that's what we were talking about in the article, and saying, there was rumors about Martin Nieces from Carolina.
Nieces, yeah.
Nieces, like, amazing young guys, like 24, 25 years old.
Love to have him on the Flyers.
And he's signed through next year, but what are you going to do? How are you going to bring this guy in and re-sign him? If you're having trouble re-signing Konecny for what he wants, how are you going to have money for Nietzsche to come in and trade for him? He'd be a free agent, and you don't really know if he's going to want to resign. So it's definitely tough, and that's why I kind of offered up another name, a cheaper, more affordable option who could be hopefully like an Owen Tippett was, and that would be Arthur Kovalev from LA. Obviously, he's not on the level of Konecny or Nietzsche, but he's also not getting paid what they're getting paid. He's younger. He's 22 years old. He fits in with that young nucleus of Forrester and Brink and all those guys and Tippett and all that, and he would continue to grow with them. He's already asked for a trade, from LA because he's just not getting that playing time. Like Tippett, he was an amazing OHL player for the Hamilton Bulldogs. He was, and compiled 126 goals in 3 seasons, 122 assists for a total of 248 points. And in playing, at a pro level with the Kings, he's had multiple seasons in the teens already.
Yeah.
But this season, he really just couldn't get it going because he wasn't playing on a consistent basis, and he wasn't playing with consistent line mates. He was just thrown in the lineup every so often and made to play with whoever, and just could never really get going. But he's paid through next season at only $894,000. Okay, the Flyers can afford that. All right,
they have $803,000 available, but
he's a low risk, high reward type player who I think, if given the chance to come in, he's a highly powerful shot that is electric, just like Tippett. Could come in and hopefully work with some consistent line mates and develop into being a pretty darn good player. And I think he would just need to, learn how to play the defensive side of the game a little bit better to be in a Tortorella system. But I think if somebody was willing to give him a chance and trade for him like the Flyers, I think he'd be more open-minded to start to learn to play defense if he's going to get a shot at his career. And, it's just, it makes sense right now, something more realistic. Obviously, you want a home run player and stuff like that, and hopefully we can re-sign Konecny, but still make a move like this because, You're going to get him for cheap. Everybody in the league now knows that he doesn't want to play for you anymore. So your bargaining chips are all off the table at that point.
Pretty
and
much.
You're just going to have to be forced to take what's best offered to you. And it's not going to be a lot. This guy was a former number 1 prospect for LA that just really never got a fair shot at pro because of the depth charts in his position.
We unload Frosty
for the Kings. So I don't know.
Did we unload Frosty for him?
I mean, I would. Something, and to create, you got to think they're trying to create more cap space. So Frost is a guy that a lot of people love in this town, but the re-signing of Ryan Poehling, you got, like you said, Noah Cates there. You got Scott Lawton. You got Sean Couturier, all signed. And Frost has just kind of been in and out of the lineup. He's been in towards his doghouse a little bit. He's improved, but he's also making $2.1 million and not really producing $2.1 million worth of points. So
enough said.
Let him go start fresh somewhere else where he could probably help them out over a guy like an underperforming Blake Lizotort. I don't know however to pronounce his name out in LA. He's like their third center. That's not really good. And, 15 points on season. Frost is definitely better than that. They would kind of chalk that up as a win, I think. And, hopefully we get a guy back that could develop into being a 25 or 30 goal scorer like he was projected to be in the first place when he was drafted. And, like Owen Tippett was. He was given a shot here in Philly, finally a fair shot, and he flourished. And I think this is what he could do too. Is it time to bring in a free agent at that level of Nietzsche's? I don't know. I think with the team wanting to build for the future, like they say they want to, I don't think that they're going to want to get rid of a first-round pick like I think it would take in order to get a prospect like him or a player like him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think they want to build for the future. They know they're going to have they already have a young core, a young nucleus here. I think they want to continue to build on that. I don't think they want to be in the realm of giving away what they just earned and made all these kind of deals for taking on bad contracts and everything else just to give it away to pay somebody else big time money to come in. I think they want to develop that young talent and be able to afford them at under $1 million or at $1 million, to come into the NHL and play for 3 seasons before they got to start paying them big time money. That's what they want. They want somebody to pair with Mishkov that's going to continue to grow with him as they get older.
I'm with you. And being able to bring somebody in there like that would be, if they could get somebody even in this draft that I think, say, a suggested from Lance Green and SteelFlyers Hockey Writers Ink draft preview show and Lance's article about potentially getting a Cole Yzerman or even trading up to get a Cole Yzerman. You know what I mean? Like with the capital they have and potential players they could put on the block. Do you know what I mean? Like a Frost would be somebody that could potentially be a good prospect for a team that could potentially be looking for somebody that's going to be needing to replace a winger or something along those lines. Do you know what I'm saying?
He's going to be good. He's a good third line player for a good team. You know what I mean? And he could hold down the fort. But when you're talking about giving away assets as far as draft picks, when we have a multitude of first and second this season or this off season and next off season, I don't know if I want to do that when we're in a 3 or 4 year plan for a rebuild. I'd rather, like you said, combine them if you want to move up and get a sure thing like a Cole Yzerman or a Berkeley Kenton or a Ginla, somebody that has 40, 50 goals in juniors and stuff like that, as projected to be somebody that could pair very nicely for the next 10 to 15 seasons with Mishkov. You know what I mean? Like, let's build a first line again, because to be honest, I don't think the Flyers even had a duo of that multitude since maybe John LeClair and Eric Lindros, or, you know, somewhat close would be Mike Richards and Jeff Carter, you know? I
Yeah,
don't
that was
think,
pretty snappy.
okay, Giroux and Voracek, they were virtually the same player. It wasn't,
Yeah, I'm with you.
somebody that's putting up 50 goals a year. This is the type of caliber where we could potentially get, if you want to utilize trading the first pick and maybe another second or third rounder to go with that or something.
And
If they
package
wanted to
up one
do
of
that,
those
I'd rather
players.
them do that than trade away something for an NHL player that we're going to have to pay $5 million for and don't have that cap space.
Right.
If that
Or
makes
that we could
that's what we're getting at here.
exactly. Or something where they could potentially add a cap hit player to that deal or something along those lines.
Yeah.
I do highly anticipate there being some things that are going to happen, I think, on draft day here for the Flyers. I really just, how could they not with the capital they have, and and even if they stand pat at 12, I think there's going to be a boatload of options, good options for them that will be there at 12. Do you know what I mean? And so I'm okay with that. You know what I mean? I'm okay with that.
And I'd rather see them, if they wanted to package somebody up and you wanted to trade a Cam Atkinson to one of these teams, like, that not necessarily the Sharks or Chicago up that high, but some of these teams like Arizona, if you wanted to move up to a certain point that a team has a crap ton load of cap space and can eat one of those bad salaries like Cam Atkinson, let's do that and overpay them in draft picks, but you're going to take this guy too and free up cap space. Huh?
Or Utah.
Yeah, Utah. That's what I'm saying. Yeah, Utah. Or, Seattle, or somebody who's not right up against the cap, push a bad salary somewhere else and let's pay them in second or third round picks to be able to move up. But you're going to take this guy.
Yeah,
free up cap space that way, rather than the buyouts that we're gonna be paying for years and years on, and it's gonna hinder us.
If that can be done, see, that's the big question, is if that can be done, if that's something that Danny Briere and this administration can pull off, if they can make some of those deals to loosen up some of that dead cap space money, you know what I mean? Make some of those kind of deals where, they can move some of these bad contracts, or they can remove some of the, you know what I mean, and just kind of loosen the reins a little bit, you know what I mean? I think that's something that's going to need to be done no matter what moving forward, okay? So speaking of moving forward, and I think we really addressed this very significantly, because I really feel that this is something is kind of hanging over the head of the Flyers. It's kind of that, I don't want to call it a black cloud, but it really is kind of handcuffing the Flyers to a certain extent, because they really can't do the moves that they really need to be making to try to, alleviate and to build and everything else like that. So, okay. Here's my other issue that I have. We've had two players where they've come out and said that two players have had significant surgeries within the last month and a half. Okay, and we're talking about Jamie Drysdale, and we're also talking about Rasmus Ristolinen. Ristolinen had a torn, what was it, triceps muscle that they had to repair, right? So I don't know if you know anything about that, but that is not good. And Drysdale had a significant shoulder injury where they said that it wasn't just a dislocation of the shoulder, it was also part of the tendon and muscle was disconnected from the shoulder as well too. So significant injuries to both of those players. Drysdale basically was the replacement for Cutter Gauthier, and you and I are both like, okay, can we put Ristolainen on the block? You know what I mean? Both are considered to be ready and available to go for this upcoming training camp.
Fingers crossed that holds true.
Okay, so that's the other thing that I want to talk about as well too, because now you've got these two players where, okay, I think Drysdale's going to work out, I think, because he's a little bit younger, and that wasn't quite of a significant injury as what Ristolinen's was. I haven't been very happy with Ristolinen's game since day one. I understand what Keith Jones saw in him at the very beginning, but unfortunately what he saw in him is not what he's getting. Okay? And it was a huge waste of money that he was re-signed for that kind of money in the whole 9 yards. And unfortunately, that's part of that quote-unquote dead cap space money where now you got these ugly contracts now and you can't move them. Do you know what I mean? Because nobody's going to want a Ristolinen now because he's coming off such a major injury. He's getting paid such a significant amount of money for the next 2 or 3 seasons. So now here you are stuck like Chuck, having to deal with this stuff. So, you know, it's not a good situation, but you know, Danny Briere needs to figure that out. That needs to be something that needs to be addressed sooner rather than later. You know what I mean? And can a team like Utah take on a Ryan Ellis or something like that to where they're like what they did with Chris Pronger a couple of years ago? Do you know what I mean? Where they just paid for his rights. Do you know what I mean? And so they just paid off the rest of his salary instead of the Flyers paying it. It was somebody else paying it. You know what I mean? If something like that can be done to get the Utah team to the ceiling, if that's the case or whatever, I would like to see something like that at least try to be done, because you're not going to be able to do really much of anything with this team if you don't do. You're going to have to do something because your hands are tied with the cap that you don't have.
Yeah, I think I don't know if they would be so inclined to do that anymore, because they did that so much in the past to get draft picks, and it really hasn't worked out for them in that sense. But to get a veteran that could still play, like Atkinson, I'm thinking that they need, because Voracek and everything, you know, like those players, those type teams need. They got a lot of youth coming up and everything, and draft picks that are coming up, but nobody to really lead them there, because nobody really wants to go there and sign as a free agent, especially if they're up there in years and chasing a cup. You know, who wants to go to Utah or Arizona, whatever they want to? I guess they're going to be Utah next year. So, you know, that's the thing too. So I think they need to take on, you know, a veteran, and maybe they'll do that. I don't know. And there's a lot of questions, but like I said, it's nice that everything we're bringing up and saying, hey, they need to do something about this. You're hearing rumors, at least, of the team already kind of working on something like that. As far as, you know, recently with, you know, the potential buyouts and looking at different stuff like that. So, and looking up, say, backup plans in case they can't re-sign Konecny. They were already looking at Nietzsche's, and bringing him in, who's younger and up and coming. So, you know, it's nice to finally see them do their due diligence, what their freaking job, right? They're doing their job, and they're sitting there getting paid to do something, and they're working on it instead of sitting here on their hands waiting for their phone to ring to do something. They're making calls and making plans and trying to execute plans, not having somebody execute them for them, or having some app that their assistants develop for them to tell them if a trade is good or bad.
You know.
Jesus.
Okay. Gosh, that's just. By the way, did you hear the latest rumor that Chuck Fletcher his name was floated to potentially replace Weedle or Waddle from Carolina?
Oh my God.
Why?
I hope so. I mean, it would make the Eastern Division easier for us. So.
Well, all right, yeah, that was kind of what I saw. You know, like, oh yeah, that would be great. Yeah, no.
Polsky needs to run that organization because he has been for years.
Yeah, no.
And Eric Tolsky needs to run that and take that spot indefinite and get paid to do that job and have that
All day
title
long.
because he
Yeah.
is that person and that
All day long.
brainchild that's been running that franchise.
I'm with you all day long. I'm with you all day long. Well, Lance, I'll tell you what here. I think we got a really good one. Look, we know that the draft is in a couple weeks. And the closer we get to the draft, the more excited we are about what the Flyers are going to potentially do here with this draft, because we really feel there is some good players out there that the Flyers are going to be able to take, and that will be available for them. So, Lance, thank you for the great article that you wrote as well. And you got anything coming up?
I do. I got some stuff on my sketch pad. I just need time to write it. But guys, if you haven't already, speaking of the draft, we here at SteelFlyers are already getting started on next season's draft for the 2025 and starting to cover those players.
Yep.
And having them on our other podcast called Prospect Watch. So head on over to the website or head on over to YouTube on the SteelFlyers page there. And also check out that if you haven't yet as well, because we've already had some amazing talent that are due to go probably in the first round in the 2025 draft already joining us and already finding out about them and getting started early. So do check that out as well. Thank you, guys.
For sure, man. And also, big thank you and props to Spreaker for all your help in getting us to all of the podcasting platforms, where all you have to do is go to your favorite podcasting platform, type in the Hockey Writers Inc., and our name will come up, and you just click on the like and give us a 5-star rating, and then put on the notifications there, and then you'll get notified every time a new show comes out. So big thank you to Spreaker. Also, big thank you and props to Amfran for doing such a great job on our shorts, man. They have been rocking good stuff, man, on the YouTube. So be sure to go check out our shorts section out there on the SteelFlyers YouTube channel as well, too. Also, check out the new Prospect Watch on Twitter or X at Prospect Watch 23. Also, check out Prospect Watch on Instagram as well now, too. I believe it's at Prospect Watch 1, I think. Yes, no?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I believe that. Prospect Watch 1.
Yep, there you go. So there you go. You got the lowdown from the editor-in-chief.
So
Mr.
new,
Lance
I
Green.
had to double check it myself.
Double check it yourself, right? So be sure to check out the Hockey Writers Inc. on X as well at HCKY Writers Inc. Be sure to follow us and go over there and check out all the latest episode information on the Hockey Writers Inc. Twitter page. You can also follow me on X at SteelFlyers52, and you can also follow Lance as well, Lance Green 39 on X. So be sure to check us out over there as well too. Also, big thanks and props to all of the Facebook groups for allowing us to put our stuff on your stuff. Thanks for allowing us to post out the great articles that Lance puts out there, and for allowing us to post out the shows on all the great Facebook groups for the Philadelphia Flyers and other teams that are too numerous to mention. But thank you all very much for your audience, and thank you very much for the comments. Please keep them coming. We really appreciate that. That's something that we look forward to. We really appreciate the audience as well, too. So thank you very much to that. Thank you, Mr. Lance Green.
Yes, sir. No problem. I enjoy this. It's amazing just to get to do this many episodes and for you guys to still be watching. So we appreciate it.
For sure, man. 170 on this one man. I'll tell you what, that's awesome. So, yeah, that's a lot of episodes. I'm your co-host, Ron SteelFlyers, and we will catch you all on the next episode of the Hockey Writers Inc.